So there's a new Black Mirror game. I haven't played it. I don't know anything about it. There's a pretty little trailer for it. I know nothing. I don't know anything about that goddamn game. I'm sorry about that. Gonna talk about the old ones. I don't want to get caught up in the preamble of this, but I'm really glad to see these games are still being made. The original Black Mirror was the second game I elected to talk about when I finally worked up the courage to embarrass myself on the internet. Though that courage wanes pretty regularly, I knew I wanted to talk about that game and have a sort of dialogue with people about it. I played this game several times and I didn't hear anyone talking about it, and that sort of frustrated me. Who am I going to talk about this game with? So anyway, I made a little video about it. And it's not great, but not many of them are. So if you want to watch my review of the first game, keep in mind, I had just started out and had yet to nail down exactly what I wanted to do with my channel. Still haven't, but I have a better idea now. Also, my review of Black Mirror 1 is the only video on my channel where I flat out spoil the ending and pick apart why it's so asinine, which I'm gonna have to bring up in this one as well if I want to make any sense of these two. So if you have anything against hearing the ending of a 14-year-old computer game, this is your warning.
Repeat. I need to spoil the first one so I can talk about how it affects the other two. I'm really sorry. It's the way it's gotta be.
I feel like I go into David Lynch voice whenever I give announcements.
This is a spoiler alert, Coop.
So, the original Black Mirror game is a fun, mildly accessible little horror story, with a whole lot of detail and atmosphere, but a really silly plot and a twist ending that seems to misunderstand its own timeline. The protagonist, Samuel Gordon, is in England, investigating the supposed suicide by defenestration of his grandfather William, and through his sleuthing, he learns of two Gordon ancestors, named Marcus and Mordred. Guess which one goes on to be an evil sorcerer? It's the one with an evil sorcerer name. That's Mordred. He's just living up to the path his parents set him on with a name like that. It's like naming someone Stacy and not expecting them to end up being a person that still has my favorite jacket. I want that fucking... Ooh. I guess it's not a universal example. Anyway, Marcus and Mordred were at each other's throats for a lot of reasons. The most disconcerting being a portal to a ghost dimension he opened in a temple under Black Mirror Castle. This got Marcus really steamed because that's not really the sort of thing he wanted to be associated with, leading Marcus to murder Mordred. As a failsafe, Mordred curses Marcus's bloodline, making it so that his descendants would be cursed with evil, murderous impulses until 5 souls were sacrificed, resurrecting Mordred. Samuel pieces together the story thanks to the writings of William Gordon, which also state that the curse and the mirror can be broken by collecting 5 soul keys and performing a ritual. His investigation drags him all over Black Mirror Castle and the nearby town of Willow Creek as he tries to prepare for the ritual. Simultaneously, many people in the village are being murdered, and many of these people Samuel has crossed paths with. And many of these people Samuel has crossed paths with. Fuck, nailed it. It's almost like he's murdering them. But then you think, Samuel wasn't anywhere near some of these people when they died. Like, that wouldn't make any sense if that were the case. But that's what they went with. Yeah, once Samuel faces the Black Mirror, ready to destroy it and save his bloodline, the truth he sees in its reflection makes him snap. The truth of his actions are too much to bear, so he kills himself in much the same way his grandfather did. Among mostly mixed reviews, there are certainly fans of this game, and there are people who grant it a status akin to a cult classic, and perhaps there is a spark that is lost in translation from its Czech origins. Either way, I think it's fun, but inescapably silly and over the top. Though Black Mirror 2, which is sometimes subtitled Reigning Evil, was handed off to a German studio, I feel like they did a lot to repurpose or make good of the missed opportunity the first one was, even going as far as having the opening cutscene be a clarification of a dangling plotline concerning the fate of Samuel's wife and the fire that damaged the castle years before. We see Samuel murder his wife and cause the fire that damaged a wing of the castle. He then appears to snap out of his trance and mourns his wife's death, seemingly unaware that he caused it. The sequel story opens 12 years later, and in Biddeford, Maine. A seemingly unrelated character named Darren Michaels is living his angsty post-college life, working in a photo shop. The first half of this game serves as a large misdirect, because this is a continuation of the first game, but so much time is devoted to getting to know Darren, his ailing mother, and an English woman named Angelina, who shows up and charms her way into Darren's trust. Not only that, but much like the original, every minor character seems to have some dark or mysterious agenda of their own, some little thing that makes it seem like Biddeford has a Lynchian dark underbelly. Even though we are not in the dreary English countryside, the suffocating atmosphere of evil is still prevalent. Darren and Angelina begin to develop a relationship of sorts after she comes into the shop looking to get her portrait taken. A strange man in a suit begins tailing the two, and they become increasingly unnerved by him. Shortly after, Darren's mother tries to call the photo shop, but his boss Fuller neglects to tell him, despite the contents of the call sounding panicked and concerning someone named Adrian and a mirror. Darren returns home to find his mother collapsed by the phone. While she is more or less comatose, Darren finds out her mother has been getting regular payments from someone in Willow Creek. Incensed at Fuller's failure to tell him about the call, he confronts him, and he gives that jerk a piece of his mind. He really tears him a new one.
You're gonna regret this.
You'll never do anything, you pussy! You haven't got the balls! You haven't got the guts! You got nothing!
I'll think of something. I'll get him back. That man's
Darren. I mean, yeah, I probably wouldn't have done much differently. He begins to grow feelings for Angelina, and she plays into it, but that tension is cut short when Fuller is found dead, with a bloody Angelina standing above him. Darren works to exonerate her and learns of a web of fucked up crimes that Fuller participated in. Darren collects enough evidence to persuade the police to release Angelina, and after a confrontation with their stalker, she decides to go back to England. Darren heads there shortly after to learn more about his connection to Willow Creek, and he is also under the impression that Angelina is in danger, after a disconcerting voicemail she leaves him. From this point on, despite some abandoned plot threads, the story heads straight back to familiar Black Mirror territory. Black Mirror 2 is slavishly a continuation of Black Mirror. It initially threw me because I kept thinking, oh, this is a really cool setting. Oh, this is mysterious. Oh wow, they're really developing these characters and making them three-dimensional. Are you sure this is a Black Mirror game? But then the whole plot is torn from its roots and dropped into Willow Creek. Once there, Darren is greeted by a very familiar and decrepit Willow Creek. The familiar locales have accrued a fresh coat of dust and decay, and in a very clever way of addressing and maybe even poking fun at the previous game's writing quality, the story of Samuel Gordon has been twisted into a desperate marketing tool to get tourists to visit the otherwise unnoteworthy Willow Creek, even going so far as to devote a section of the town's museum to an undoubtedly insensitive tribute to Samuel's killing spree. I mean, they have an animatronic Samuel killing a little Vic, while his sister lives in the town, by the way. I mean, this shit happened like a couple years ago. She's probably still a little sore about it. Come on, guys. Not classy. Not a classy move. The infamy of the first game lives through this one in a cute way. I feel like the acknowledgement of the series' missteps and the clear effort to right the ship helped me enjoy Black Mirror 2 and 3. Darren takes some time getting acclimated to the area and meeting the new cast of characters, while following a suspicious trail of breadcrumbs left by Angelina. Black Mirror 2 and 3 sort of collide into a single entity, leaving the likelihood of you following the story by just jumping into the third one impossible. While as a whole the story of these two games can feel slow or bloated, I couldn't help but be impressed by how much is fit into it. There are a ton of characters and plot lines, and more added in the third one due to Darren suddenly gaining the ability to walk around the corner, where apparently most of the staples of a town were the whole time, like a police station and a coffee shop. How did those not become relevant in 2? Alright, so I'm going to make pains to tiptoe around the finer details of the story from here on out. But obviously Darren has a connection to the events of Black Mirror 1, and the supposedly cursed Gordon family, that you can probably surmise, and though we don't know how, it seems that forces have been conspiring to bring Darren to England. He must work to uncover his connection to the Gordons and deal with that reality while two factions are working to use him or destroy him. Darren's character is sort of naive and emotional in Black Mirror 2, and he gets manipulated and fooled by characters much longer than the audience does. I do appreciate that they give him considerable time to develop, and a very specific thing he excels at, that often comes into play to help him out of jams, and that's his knowledge of physics. Without this, Darren is sort of a weenie, a misanthropic youth with only sulking as his superpower.
The water is broken down by the heat, creating oxygen, or hydrogen, or oxyhydrogen, explosive gas.
It's actually kind of impressive how he uses his education to get stuff done. He's not like some people that wasted an education and just dick around on YouTube hoping something will come of it. But yeah, in Black Mirror 3, he goes through a bit of a transformation. and begins to have violent outbursts where he envisions himself killing random people for various reasons. There is a clear struggle for identity and purpose inside Darren, and I really enjoyed that addition to his psyche. Seeing as though he's already such a frustrated and downtrodden guy who is now being dragged through this increasingly dark and violent supernatural story, it was nice seeing him try to maintain himself while being sort of seduced to the fucking dark side. Sorry, I don't have a more eloquent way of putting that. There were complaints about the end of Reigning Evil because it is somewhat abrupt and used to set up the sequel. Though if you want to see the story concluded and you don't mind another 20 hours in this world, then The Final Fear picks up like the second episode of Black Mirror, the show. I mean, not Black Mirror the show, but if Black Mirror was a show. You know what I mean? The third game's conclusion feels about as close to satisfying as I'm gonna get. I was invested, and I did want to see how things panned out for Darren, and I feel good about the ending. It's appropriate, and surprisingly less bleak than I anticipated, but it still leaves some wiggle room for continuation thanks to an after-credits scene. The combined plot between these two games is really dense, so some of that is effectively creepy and interesting, and there are certainly some memorable moments, but it feels like there is a lot of fat on the story. For both, I was astonished by how they just wouldn't end. So I'm often conflicted when I think of this series. I think that required a lot of forethought and planning, but there are some relentless, monotonous portions of this game, as well as seemingly abandoned plot lines that dominate my memories of it.
Carrie died here 2 years ago. She was my best friend.
Hey, Rosie, did you know Carrie, Jason's first wife?
Oh, did you like where that plot line was going? Did you like that? Yeah? Well, that's too bad that he get stuffed.
And the heavier lore elements seemed to be crammed towards the end as things were coming to a head. It's certainly an interesting mystery at play, and it was enjoyable seeing how far they would push the story. Things escalate intensely, but it takes a lot of patience to get there. I'm way into this sort of thing, and even I struggled with it now and then. Also, there's so much of this guy Murray who is deeply unpleasant in every way and has an obnoxious voice. And we spend so much fucking time talking to him.
Oh, a new guest. Ah, Mr. Michaels. Ah, Mr. Michaels. Oh, the esteemed Mr. Michaels.
And in the third one, he is sort of upgraded to a main character and dominates so much of it. It's just like, god damn it, are we killing off every character except the one I actually want to personally murder? Some people, mainly those into long-form mystery, psychological thrillers, and also into somewhat aged video game genre, will absolutely enjoy the story of Black Mirror. But if you're more accustomed to something faster paced or more immediate, these games will probably put you to sleep. I swing both ways. I'm impartial, because I like shooters and action-oriented games, but sometimes I want to sort of relax and not be stressed out by a game. I like, playing all those highfalutin action-packed games. But I'm a sensitive boy, and sometimes the loud noises scare me. These games are like the video game equivalent of reading an agreeable but not wholly remarkable book before going to bed. This whole time I was trying to appeal to both the part of me that likes this game and the part that never wants to play it again, so I wouldn't sound like a jerk, but I don't know if I was successful in doing that. Video games have been perfected in this day and age. But this is a relatively old series. Both Black Mirror 2 and 3 I'm assuming were made during the same production cycle, as they are, from a programming perspective, identical. Same pretty basic point-and-click gameplay with a journal that Darren keeps notes in, a map so you can jump around to different locations, dialogue trees despite always needing to exhaust every topic of conversation anyway. You click on hotspots to hear Adrian's dry, sardonic musings on everything.
Pretty senseless driving around Maine in a convertible. But I reckon that's not what it's really about. It was expensive, and that's what counts.
It's nothing complicated, and if even that is too complicated, you can turn on the easy mode, which detects that you're taking too long on a puzzle and offers you the option to gracefully bow out of the challenge. You can also choose to reveal all the hotspots in a scene if you don't want to search each of the detailed locations for stuff to click on. these games don't really opt for one kind of puzzle. There's a decent mix of both conventional puzzles and riddles with logical problem solving. Black Mirror 3's last third introduces a twist in the gameplay where you must simultaneously control Darren and a new character named Valentina. You are put through a few puzzles that require you to make use of both characters, and this was a really nice change of pace. Aside from a great deal of backtracking and the extraordinary length of these games, they are both enjoyable and entertaining to play. Most of the difficulty I found was in the sheer bulk of items you collect throughout, and I often forgot I had some or didn't think to combine or take a closer look at them. There is little in the way of technical issues or programming flaws to impede you from enjoying this game, though it would be wise to save your game after completing a significant amount of the game, as you can die in a few places that are spaced rather far from each other. Some are telegraphed, some aren't. If Darren is putting himself in some kind of clear danger, just save it. Don't be a dummy, don't be a stupid jerk. I know I've said this a few times before, but I have to reiterate. These games are long. There is a combined 40 plus hours in here, and a whole lot more if you take your time to absorb every detail. That's actually kind of necessary also, because a great deal of innocuous, unimportant looking things often lead to some kind of progression. Also, these games are long! Black Mirror 2 and 3 are substantial improvements over Black Mirror 1, and both feature really well done and occasionally beautiful backgrounds, full of detail and little idle animations. This is like a thing I like. Fuck, I'm so bad at writing. This is just one of those aspects of adventure game design that I appreciate so much. The care and attention put into these lovely pre-rendered backgrounds. Obviously, character models and most things that are not pre-rendered look a little rough. A little PlayStation 2. And Darren's face becomes particularly unseemly in Black Mirror 3. Everyone moves in a very stiff, calculated, robotic way, as though they had Resident Evil tank controls that we don't have access to. You know that weird, clear distinction between, I am moving forward, now I must change course. Function complete. It's just an odd contrast of something really pleasant and something really archaic. Though I suppose that at the risk you take with pre-rendered backgrounds. In any case, the graphic style of these games never impeded my enjoyment of them, even if they do look a little silly and inflexible sometimes. Oh, there was this weird graphical hiccup whenever the character Reginald would come on screen. It's like the texture for his face would smear across the screen every couple seconds. I am almost positive this wasn't intentional, unless it was supposed to be some kind of subliminal Fight Club thing, meant to hint at Darren's impending personality split, which it wasn't. Both of these games have fantastic soundtracks, composed by... This is a series with very few mirthful moments. Every scene is sort of drab and foreboding, and the music mirrors that quite well, with ominous strings and piano. It borrows familiar elements from horror movie scores, but imparts its own personality onto it. One that's a little more somber and gothic, which is appropriate given how these games are sort of mashup of gothic horror with relatively modern sensibilities. As far as voice acting, I feel like that's gotta vary from person to person. There are a lot of characters, a lot of accents, a lot of specific characters that need to work for a story like this. And, not all of them work. Darren speaks with an American Boston accent, which is a very specific and often impersonated accent. And it's one of those things that's very noticeable if you're not nailing it.
A small container of photo developer from Fuller's basement. It's full to the brim.
So it's sort of grating at first, but I eventually just tuned it out. It's capably performed, but I feel like performances may have been weighed down by the sometimes awkward phrasing of things, or spoken typos.
In the Middle Ages, the drainage system fell into despair.
This is most assuredly a result of translation issues, and not the voice actor, but it's slightly disruptive. Also, I don't know if it was an actor choice, or if it was written on the script that Darren begins almost every sentence with a sigh, or a dismissive, huffy exhale.
Okay then. Okay. Ugh.
Like, Darren is just fucking over everything everywhere. Having said that, he's one of the better voice actors in the series. There are tons of minor characters with clearly less than stellar performances.
Oh no. I hope the old saw doesn't spot anything.
I'm pretty sure I could do a better line read. I'm pretty sure I could do a better line read. I'm pretty sure I could do a better line read of that. Watch. Oh no.
Why'd you give up at the end?
Because I lost the will to live.
What?
Black Mirror, as a franchise, is hit or miss. It's campy, it can take itself a little too seriously sometimes, there's some rough voice acting, some plot holes and typos and mistakes, but you know, the sheer bulk of how much Black Mirror there is ambitious and impressive, and there's a lot of good stuff in it. These are small productions made by people that cared about the story, and the art, and the music, and it shows. It's more than I can say about most of the games in the past couple years. The first Black Mirror game was like a silly, dark fairy tale that excelled at building a history and an atmosphere, but left much to be desired in creating an engaging narrative. It's this odd little self-contained horror story that suggests potential with nice background art and a moody gothic atmosphere, but it's ultimately sort of immature. Once the series was handed over from Future Games to Cranberry Productions, a clear effort was made to mature the franchise, and not by taking the name and terraforming it into something else entirely, but to amend and advance the plot, making the first game a preface to a deeper, richer narrative. It's sometimes successful at that, and it's confusing for me to try to rectify the rift in my thinking about this series, because there is part of me that deeply appreciates the long-form, linear narrative structure of classic adventure games, and the scale of this one is near unheard of. It's something that's important to me, and that I want preserved as we slip further and further into this new landscape of gaming that peddles its lack of structure and occasionally stability as a selling point. Though you have to sort of kick rocks over to find them, games like this still exist, and that's fantastic. There's also part of me that needs to acknowledge that this series is flawed in a lot of ways, that less open-minded video game fans won't forgive as easily as me. Notice my avoidance of the term gamer. I don't know, nowadays that word seems super outdated and reminds me of that scene in Charlie's Angels where those two kids are playing Final Fantasy VIII at the same time somehow. I don't know why, and don't examine that too deeply. Plot aside, this is a pretty casual, accessible adventure game experience, with some moderately challenging and varied puzzles and a great deal of backtracking. Amidst that, you will be treated to some great environments to explore and tons of mostly competently performed dialogue. Everything is sort of in the wheelhouse of creepy and unsettling, but it never quite lives up to that. It functions as an interesting enough psychological thriller that will appease fans of traditional adventure games and not very many else.
The door is closed. The door is closed. The door is closed.
Alright. Fuck. Sorry, that was real rough. I just recorded this whole thing like in an hour sitting in the back of my car while a helicopter circled ahead every now and then, talking about some guy that did some kind of crime and he was wearing a jersey with the number 50 on it. So in between that, I had to record this long-winded video that I'm very unsure how it's going to turn out. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you watched, thank you so much to my subscribers and to my patrons on Patreon. If you want to support me, you can support me there. That's very nice of you to do that, because you know, I work super hard on this, and you know, every spare goddamn minute I have just to make other people happy. Well, really, it's very selfish. I want to be happy. I want to be validated on the internet. Anyway, I won't get into that. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much if you're a patron. Oh god, I got a whole lot of other videos I'm working on. I'm trying to get them out very, very fast, but I regularly release stuff with a lady named Paige on my other channel that nobody looks at. It's called Have a Mice Life. We do a podcast every Friday about weird Disney stuff. We usually talk about like just the movies that nobody watches, the games, comics. We also have a few kind of let's play sort of videos that we're experimenting with. It's adorable, really. I mean, like, it's obscene sometimes.
Sometimes crafting is tedious.
You don't need crafting. You're my little cook on Zelda. You're like, do you need food? Hand it over.
I love cooking. So, I didn't say I didn't like crafting. I said sometimes I don't need it.
What's the circumstances where you don't need crafting?
It looks all robot-y.
Robot-y?
You know I don't like robot shit.
You guys should check that out if you like hearing my voice. Which even saying that out loud is pretty weird. You're probably a weirdo. If you're a weirdo, go listen to more of that, because I actually regularly release that content. Whereas my channel, the stuff I release on this channel, it takes goddamn forever to put out apparently. But yeah, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for bearing with me. Alright, I'm gonna get out of this car now. Signing off catchphrase.